Hi everybody, and welcome to another edition of RCGP Masterclasses, this time focusing on business skills and entrepreneurship. My name's Anthony, I'm an ST3, chair of the college's AIT community and your host today. This series has been put together to focus on some of those frequently asked questions that many of us get towards the end of our training. We're going to be hearing from expert GPs sharing their experiences and top tips across a range of different subject areas. Today's session on business skills and entrepreneurship, we're going to be joined by Dr. Surina Chibber, who is a GP who needs very little introduction. Surina is a portfolio GP and co-founder of My Locum Manager. She's regularly been voted in the top list of the most influential general practitioners in the UK and has been a real champion for what can be achieved by early career GPs. Hi Surina, thanks for joining us today. Anything you'd like to add to that introduction?
Oh no, I think you've done more than done anything that I could do justice to anything I could have done. So thank you. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here today.
So Surina, today we're going to be talking about business skills and entrepreneurship. And I think My Locum Manager, many people will probably have already heard about it. I guess to start off with, it would be great to kind of hear your early experiences of starting a business, taking an idea from just that into something more tangible. What was the first thing that you did to get things going?
Right, yeah. So really good question. So I set up My Locum Manager kind of about a year and a half after CCTing, because when I finished and I started as a locum GP and then developed my role as a portfolio GP, I found that I really struggled with kind of finances, staying on top of like what I'd booked where. I also wanted a lot of control over how I worked. So I wanted to manage my relationships with practices regularly and get access to support and teaching and accountants and all that stuff. And I kind of, that need of needing that kind of support bubble to help me work flexibly was really what drove me to kind of set it up. And the first step was really recognizing, well, you know, I need this, but would other people need it? So really understanding like what the needs as a whole would be. And I then kind of set out a bit of a plan. I didn't know it was called a business plan at the time, if I'm honest, because I'd never run my own business before. And it didn't start as that. I actually thought this is going to be really useful for me and hopefully it'll be helpful for other people. And that was my ethos behind it. And so when I kind of started on that path, I found that it was actually, I just basically I didn't have an idea on creating a business plan, but what I did do was I mapped out the next kind of 5 or so years of the kinds of things I wanted to achieve with that. And they were things like, I want to help GPs find an accountant quickly. I want to help GPs really simplify their tax return. I want to help GPs work flexibly. That was kind of those questions and those wants were what drove me to develop it and then helped it evolve over time.
Okay, so really it's about identifying a problem for you and then recognizing that that's a shared problem for many people and then doing something about it, I guess.
Exactly, yeah. And that actually, I found out years later, is called market research. But I didn't know that at the time because I was just doing it based on what I needed and what I felt like I needed help with. So yeah, like I think I just kind of stumbled into it more that I just really would like, you know, something like this to really help me. And yeah, now looking back, it's like, oh yeah, that's called market research and market validation and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, that's the way I ended up doing it.
And then you mentioned kind of writing down a plan, didn't necessarily think of it as a business plan at the time, but what were some of the key things that you included in that? If someone does have an idea, there's just starting to put pen to paper, what should go into that first draft of your business plan or whatever you'd call it at the time?
Yeah, so I think there's probably a couple of steps that I think are worth sharing. And I think the first thing is actually don't think of it as a business. Think about it's something that you're passionate about and something that matters to you and will hopefully matter to other people. Think about the solutions that you want to bring as, you know, into people's lives. So I kind of took it step by step. I thought, oh, this is a real pain point for me. Oh, it seems to be a pain point for other people. I want to solve this. And I kind of did that step by step. So I think that's the first thing for crystallizing what your business is actually going to do. Because once you know that, you can then put together a business plan based on, well, once it does what it's meant to do, kind of how you're going to grow it and how you're going to like help it flourish and how you're going to help more people with it. And I used a number of different resources actually. So you can, on the internet, you've got lots of resources for small businesses or people, you know, kind of starting in the business sector or kind of heading up startups. I found like lots of free resources, like Virgin Startup have lots of free resources, lots of free classes and events you can go to. The NHS England clinical entrepreneur scheme was a really, really good supportive kind of mechanism for me. I met lots of other like-minded medics who were doing lots of different things, and it just really helped me to kind of find my tribe really and kind of share those ideas and not be scared about talking about wanting to do all these things. So that was really important. And now there's lots of accelerators around as well. So you can sign up to an accelerator with your business, and if it fits well, they can really help you to move it forward and plug you into all those resources. So there's lots of stuff out there, I think, but the starting point is really identifying what problems you want to solve and how you want to solve them.
Mm. And in your situation and in lots of businesses, you're a co-founder of the business. What was the process of like finding someone to be that co-founder with? I think that's probably quite an important, I mean, obviously a really important relationship within the business. What was that journey like for you?
Well, I think for me it was quite simple because my co-founder is actually my husband. So that was really easy. And actually what happened there was I was locoming and I was doing portfolio work, and I was really struggling to have something that would make it effortless for me to work flexibly and give me all the added support. And he's a partner, but he's also very techie, and he's very interested in developing solutions that people want to use. So for him, it was like a pet project that would get me off his back and would just kind of help him have an outlet for his creativity with tech. And for me, it was very much about solving problems that GPs like me had. So in a way, it was like a perfect fit. And then other kind of people that have helped influence the business and helped influence it are really other GPs and other First Fives. And to be honest, without their support, I just wouldn't really be here. Because so I remember when I started, I had no like marketing budget or anything like that really. We created the site, and then I remember posting on a GP mums group on Facebook just to say, oh look guys, and it took me like about a day to psych myself up to post. And then I posted and said, oh, I've created this site and I just really need some help. Like I just need some feedback about it, and I'm just not sure how I'm going to spread the word. And I had all these GPs, like a lot of them trainees, like, yeah, I'll help you, send me the link, I'll help. And then they basically gave up their time to give me feedback. And then some of them ended up being program directors. They were like, you know, come to a VTS talk, you know. And then as more people signed up, they helped share it. And they said, Surina, this would be really good if this was built. And I listened to that and I did that. And then it kind of grew even more. So I think actually the GP community, I've been so blessed to have their support in that way, but I'd kind of say they're like the third co-founder. Like it's definitely GP built from the GP community. And I think that's really helped to help it to really solve other problems that a lot of other people have.
Yeah, I think that's such a lovely story. I think everybody really enjoys that about general practice, is that sense of community.
Yeah.
Actually, for it to be able to help create something which benefits everybody is a really nice part of the business, I guess, as well, for you to be able to kind of enjoy.
Yeah, definitely. So I think that's been a really, really important step.
Starting out, you've obviously kind of alluded to the fact that you weren't planning on starting a business. You hadn't necessarily had that in mind. What are some of the things that you've learned along the way that you wish you'd known before starting out?
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good question, actually. So I wish I'd known. I'm just trying to rewind a few years back and think, what did I? So I think one really important thing was like self-belief. Like I think a lot of times, especially in the beginning, I just think, oh, I don't know if I can do this, like, you know, oh, I don't, and I'd feel really nervous about kind of talking about the business or talking about what I wanted to do, because I just thought someone might say, oh, that's a ridiculous idea, or like, why are you doing this? You haven't been to business school, what are you doing? And I think that was quite scary for me, but I really had to overcome that. But again, I think definitely, like, my fellow ST3s and the GP community, like, really helped me, and they help me to this day, to be fair. Like, you know, I think that support has been kind of has really shaped me, and in that way shaped the business, because it's given me some self-belief, and it's really helped me to feel more, no, I can do this, and oh, okay, and you know, so that's been really important. I think the other thing I've learned is I've always thought, like, where can I help? Like, with the business, like, where can I help and how can I help? And that's kind of been my ethos from the beginning, and that's really helped to shape, like, the way the business has grown, and kind of the different things that we're doing and that we're about to do. I constantly ask myself that question, and I get so many emails from trainees and, you know, first fives with like questions and stuff like that, and I've never been although sometimes it takes me a day or two to reply because I'm like juggling the kids and everything else, you know, I've always kind of responded to that and said, yeah, of course I can help you, you know, I'll do this. Like, so the contracts and negotiations webinar that we did recently came off the back of like about 50 emails of, Serena, I'm about to CCT, do you have any advice about contracts? And I was like, yeah, like, I'll just do a webinar and just, you know, sort it out. So I think kind of how can I help has been a really, really useful thing that I've learned, like, to keep asking myself that and to keep delivering that. And also that I read a quote a while ago and it really stuck with me, and it was that actually the journey is the reward. And I think so much before then, I was on this hamster wheel of like, got to do my AKT, got to do my CSA, got to find a job, got to do this. And actually, it was all about getting these tick boxes. But when I got them, I still felt like, oh God, I've still got other stuff to do. But now I just very much like, you know, kind of this kind of talk that we're doing today and stuff like that, it's all part of like a learning process. It's a lot of fun and I really enjoy it. And I get to meet so many like cool people like you who, you know, we dress the same. Got the same dress sense. But no, I think that's been a really good learning point, that I got to meet so many amazing GPs, you know, that do so many amazing things, and I've learned a lot from that whole process. So I think they're my main kind of things.
Yeah, I mean, I think that kind of idea about self-belief is so important, and I've listened to lots of different conversations with kind of business founders, and I think that's often something that they say is just, if you have an idea, you know, just go for it and believe in yourself. And if you're able, if you have a problem that does need solving and you're able to really push that forward, then often you probably will end up being able to do quite well. But often having that self-belief is the most difficult step.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I think as GPs, we're often the first people to beat ourselves up. Like, I remember, like, sometimes if like the practice manager will call me, or another GP will just say, oh, can I just speak to you about that patient you saw? Like, in my head runs a movie of, oh my God, I've messed up, I've done something wrong, and it'll be like, oh, she just wanted to give this thank you note for you, and I'm like, oh really? Because in my head there's a whole different movie playing. And I think we're just inherently like bad at just being our own best friend just and giving ourselves a pat on the back. And I think I think that's probably the hardest challenge we all have, really.
On a slightly different kind of view of this, what's been the most difficult thing for you to learn during this whole process of starting a business?
Okay, so juggling childcare has been really difficult. So because I had, you know, my children were really small when I started this, and I kind of hadn't anticipated the amount of juggling and this, that and the other that I'd have to do to be able to run a business and actually, you know, have a family. But again, like, you do what you have to do and work around it. But it was really hard, I think. And there are times where I'm just constantly like, oh God, I've got to do this and I've got to do this, and you know. And I think the other challenge was knowing that it's okay to feel out of my depth, like knowing that you know, it's all right not to have all the answers, and not to be like, you know, I've not been to business school, I've not done any kind of business learning. I think the GP community and the support has really helped me kind of get to this point, and I'm very grateful for that. But also it's been the generosity of others. So I joined like a mastermind group, which is just with another, like a group of people who are doing different things in primary care or in healthcare, and we kind of meet every couple of months and often on Zoom or something, and we just have a chat about our challenges, our successes, wins, and we discuss with each other how to help. And kind of, I didn't know these people very well when I started this, but I've just been touched by the generosity of other people that are walking that same path in their business, that they'll share their learning, they'll share, you know, advice, they'll give you their input, and they'll just be there to say, it's all right, like, you're doing fine. So I think just understanding that it's okay to feel out of my depth, and that I can reach out to, you know, friends and family and colleagues to help navigate the way is a good way of overcoming a challenge.
I think that's probably a something that you can apply to any additional role that you might take on post CCT or during your training. I think that kind of feeling of imposter syndrome, that you're not good enough to be in whatever role it might be, is actually something that we all share often when we're kind of starting out on whatever career journey it might be. And actually, I think it's really nice to hear about those experiences of actually just, once you start talking to people in the same position, you recognize that all of us are facing similar challenges. And it's great that you've been able to be so well supported throughout that. And also sounds like to support lots of other people on a similar journey as well.
Yeah, definitely. Paying it forward, I think, is an important part of the whole process.
Yeah. And we spoke about kind of some of the challenges. What have been some of the moments that have given you the most joy during this process of starting a business?
Yeah, so I think about those moments a lot, actually, because it gets me through like the really busy times and the really like challenging times. And I think, gosh, there's been so many. So the ones that stick to mind are really like little things, like when my children first saw my local manager on my laptop, and they were like, Mummy, is this the thing you made? And I was like, yeah. And they were like, you did a really good job. Look at your colouring in. It's all in the line. And they saw the website. And I was like, oh, thanks, guys. So that was really like, you know, it really touched me that, oh, wow, they, you know, that, yeah, just to get that pat on the back was really nice from my two little people. And then other things, I think just the support that other GPs have given me. And I come back to that a lot, but it really has meant a lot. So they, kind of for 3 years in a row, my local managers made the Pulse Power Top 50, and that's grassroots GPs in their busy time, like just like messaging. And I remember when I first got it, someone shared it on Twitter and then tweeted me and said, oh, congratulations. I was like, oh, thanks, what for? And they're like, oh, you made it. I was like, oh, really? So it was just such a nice surprise. And I think that was a really nice moment, because just following on from that, I had a lot of emails from a lot of the members of my local management just saying, oh, we voted for you, and, you know, thank you for doing this, thank you for helping with this. And that really, that actually made me cry, to be honest. I felt really emotional, like, oh, it just felt like, you know, when you see a patient and they maybe give you a card, or they say, oh, thanks, it just kind of had that feeling of like, oh, wow, like I'm actually doing something nice for other colleagues, and it means something to other people. And then the other thing, I think little wins are, I've learned so much about that as a GP myself, I've done lots of other things with my local manager that have taught me, like public speaking, you know, marketing, just engagement, lots of things, like live webinars that I wouldn't necessarily have done if I wasn't branching out into this area. And that's taught me a lot. Like, I've learned so much, I think, that I wouldn't have learned in any other way. So, and I'm very grateful for that, actually.
I think that's lovely to hear. And I think it's one of the things that I've kind of been reflecting on as well, is that through lots of opportunities, both in the consulting room, but also outside it, I feel like I've been able to flourish as a person a lot more and find out things that I didn't know about. And so it's really nice to hear that kind of this process overall, it seems to have had a similar effect for you as well.
That's it. That's exactly, actually, you've kind of, you know, hit the nail on the head there. I think it's really helped me flourish outside of the consulting room, and I feel like I've learned so much because of that. And yeah, definitely it's made a really exciting and interesting addition to my career.
Well, I think that's been amazing, kind of just to touch on some of the key elements that you've experienced during this business of this journey of starting a business. For me, I think kind of the idea of making sure that when you've identified that problem and really delving into what it is that you can do to solve it, thinking about what you'd like to see change about it, and then learning from others around their experiences of that problem as well. Again, and then moving into the idea of kind of the network that helps you grow that business and that idea into something tangible, and I guess a lot of goodwill from people all wanting to help you solve that problem because it will benefit them as well.
Yeah.
And for me, also just thinking about the fact there are lots of free resources out there, and you definitely don't have to be an expert or have done any specific training before you start. You can just have the idea, get going, and then learn along the way with different resources, online communities. I think your experience really makes it feel quite empowering that not anybody, but if you have an idea, you can just go out there and do this and make it work.
I mean, if I can do it, like with 2 kids and just no background, whatever, like genuinely anybody could do it. And I'll say that honestly. Like, I think, and anyone can do it. Why not? I think it starts with a bit of self-belief, and it starts with like a really good community of people that are going to help you along the way, but also tapping into those resources. So, I would have used a lot of those resources a lot sooner if I'd had the courage to say, I'd really like help with this. I'd like, help with X, Y, and Z. And now I think if I was to do it again, I would definitely kind of tap into those things a lot sooner. So yeah, definitely. I mean, if I can do it, definitely anyone can do it.
I mean, that sounds like some great words to finish on. Do you have any final top tips or anything else you'd like to add?
Yes, I'd say my top tips are, if you're doing something, whether it's a business or work or whatever you're doing that you're really passionate about, you've kind of pretty much won 90% of the battle, because when you get up every day, you're just going to enjoy the fact that you're doing something that you love. I think thinking about the value that you bring to people is probably the most important thing. Anybody can create a business out of anything. You can create a bit of software, you can create a product and sell it on a shop or whatever, like online shop or whatever. You can do that, but it's the human aspect of it, that support aspect of it, and kind of giving things that people really want and need, which is where I think things make the difference. And I think the more you give, the more you seem to receive. And I think definitely with me, I've kind of received so much support, which has really helped me along the way. And I think that pretty much has been a game changer.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your experiences. I think a really inspiring story, and hopefully will give kind of encouragement to anybody listening out there who does have an idea, something that they feel passionate about and would love to turn into reality. So thanks for being so open and sharing so much with us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Great. Well, thank you everybody for listening. Thank you again, Surina, for giving us your time today, and we'll look forward to seeing you for the next edition of RCGP Masterclasses.
Great, thank you. Bye.